Happy Monday. Welcome to Sermon Scraps for this week. This was one of the most difficult texts I've ever preached on in my entire life. So, a few extra thoughts on this. One is the slides are up on our website, so I will link an attachment to them. Just an FYI, with this new system that we're using that includes like our website and some of the other features, some things get a lot easier for me. So I've started adding a link to all the sermon slides after they're done on the website now. So if you just go to our website and do media and then click on yesterday's sermon, there's three things on there. There's the sermon notes, there's a link to the sermon manuscript, which is what I use to preach from, and then once the sermon is done, I am linking to the PowerPoint slides that you can just download and read through them. And especially when there's slides that are small font or graphics that you want to save and hold on to, I will always be putting those up there moving forward. And if I forget, email me or text me, and then I can get those uploaded for you. One other thing I wanted to mention as well, or two things I wanted to mention, just some resources that I found helpful as we're working through Revelation, and not just for Revelation, I actually use them for other things as well. One of them is the ESV Expositor's Commentary. It's essentially a commentary of the entire Bible, but it's condensed enough that it gives a really good overview of how to interpret the passage without going too far into the weeds. Now you do have to pay for it, but one of the things I do is pay for the ESV.org membership or subscription or something. It's like $30 a year, so it's not too expensive, and then gives you access to that as well as a bunch of other study Bibles and some Bible studies. I just find that resource incredibly helpful. The other one is the Gospel Coalition has actually published a free commentary of the entire Bible. That one you don't have to pay anything for. You can just go up there and read, and I've similarly found that one really helpful in trying to navigate Revelation as well. One of the things that I tried to do with this sermon yesterday is I had this phrase running through my mind when I was in grade school, up through high school. Any math class, you were always demanded that you had to show your work. So some of what I was trying to do yesterday is just show my work to get to how I was interpreting Revelations 11, 1 through 4. Now, again, there's way more than I could ever dig into, which is where like half the sermon yesterday was about those 42 months, just because there's so much behind there. And I think it's going to be critical for us moving forward to understand what that phrase is that John is referring to. So a couple notes. One is I just wanted to give some more credence to what I talked about with the temple being God's people today, because that word temple actually appears two other places in Revelation. One is chapter 11, verse 19, so just a few verses later from what we read, as well as chapter 14, verse 17. And there it's just a way of describing God's glory in heaven. So that's some of what I think is being communicated is the center point of God's glory is now being made manifest among his people today. So with that, because of that interpretation, I would argue that even if a literal temple was rebuilt in Jerusalem, I don't think it would have any bearing on Jesus' return. Like I've seen all these videos, especially as the what is that? The sun or the moon covering the sun, eclipse. And the eclipse was coming through. I saw these videos about temple's going to be rebuilt. Red heifer is going to be sacrificed on the Jerusalem Mount. And honestly, if those things are happen, even if things were to happen, I don't think it would have any bearing on Jesus' return. Now, remember, I've shared this. I've heard a pastor one time say we're on God's welcoming committee, not the planning committee. So we can't trigger God's return. Like nothing we can do will determine what God will do in his preordained plan over all of human history. Like I think back to, I think it's Revelation 5, the martyrs under the altar, it's either 5 or 6. If even the martyrs, like those who have been killed for the cause of the gospel, if them pleading and begging with God doesn't change his mind to bring him back, why do you think we could? So I'm actually getting to the point where if anyone starts predicting the end of Jesus' return, I will bet them $1 million that it won't happen that day. And I will very quickly become a very wealthy man if anyone will take me up on that, because I continue seeing all this misinterpretation and misapplication of what the text is actually saying. That's a temple piece. The other thing, Daniel 9, I actually found the ESV Expositor's commentary on this incredibly helpful. And in there, it was described as, and I quote, the most challenging section of the book and one of the most difficult in the Bible. So I believe that if that's true of the Daniel passage, then it's doubly true of Revelation, because Revelation is picking up that idea. So then even making it even more, slightly more complex and confusing. And this is just, I think, why it's so important to have an understanding of all of the Bible, as well as access to good resources. I mean, honestly, there's some really, really bad resources out there. Really bad commentaries you could get. There's some really bad videos you can watch. Like, there's just this proliferation of content, and that doesn't always mean the content is good. Like, honestly, it's really easy to throw up videos that make no sense and just throw them on YouTube. It is really easy to do that. And I've been thinking about that recently. I had a friend send me an article that was talking about the need for seminaries to change because there's access to so much content out there. Some of it's good and a lot of it's free, but people don't always know how to filter. So part of the role and purpose of seminaries moving forward is training people in knowing how to find and access good resources. Now, one of the things I want to talk about in relation to Daniel 9 was the second half. Like, I focused on the first half of Daniel chapter 9, just to focus on Jesus there. The second half, again in 26 and 27, mirrors each other. So in 26 it says, the people of the coming ruler will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come with a flood, and until the end there will be war. Desolations are decreed. Second half of 27 is, and the abomination of desolation will be on a wing of the temple until the decreed destruction is poured out on the desolator. Now, Jesus actually picks up that exact language in Matthew 24 and Luke 21 and says that it will take place in the midst of that generation, taking this to refer to the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple in AD 70. So the people of the coming ruler, verse 26, would be the Jews. Because of their rejection of the Messiah, Jesus, they would face this destruction of the temple and ultimately of Jerusalem. And then 27, the Romans would come in and pour out destruction upon them. This is not something that is taking place in the future. This is something that has already happened. So this isn't something that we're looking forward to. That's where in I think it's Matthew, it says, when the abomination of desolation comes, let the reader understand. It's referring back to this prophecy from Daniel. Now, just to summarize the way that you need to interpret what is being said in Revelation, try to help just give an overview again. Revelation 11, 1 and 2, to pick up that theme of 42, or, well, actually a lot of Revelation 11, the 3.5, the 42, the 1,260 days, the time and times and half a time is another way of just saying 3.5. You start with Revelation 11. That is interpreting a passage in Daniel chapter 9, which is itself a meditation on Jeremiah 25, which is picking up themes in Leviticus 25. And you could even go back further than that, because it begins with the Sabbath or sabbatical years. And so you could pick up the Sabbath or sabbatical themes going back to Exodus 20 in remembering the Sabbath, and then going back all the way to Genesis 1 and God's creation and ordering of the heavens and the earth. Now, one of the things that I found, another resource that actually I found really helpful, is by Peter Gentry. It's called Daniel's 70 Weeks and the New Exodus. That's some of what triggered in my mind just the theme of the exile and exodus for God's people throughout history, and the need for us to know that story as the predominant theme throughout the Bible. And I've just been thinking this week as well in relation to that, the fact that God has brought us out of exile. We were once slaves to sin. Now God has freed us and made us slaves to him, slaves to righteousness. So then in thinking through this Exodus theme, there's now Jubilee that is to come. Jesus is that Jubilee, but the Jubilee is not completely fulfilled. So we have to wait for the new heavens and the new earth to finally see that Jubilee and experience that ultimate Jubilee finally completed. Whew, that was a lot. I in the slides is the chiastic structure of Revelation. If you would like to look at and read and study that, I think it's just a helpful way to help kind of put all the pieces together of an overview of the book. One brief announcement. We'll be having a members meeting in 3.5 weeks, June 9th. We'll be doing it at 9 o'clock, and we're doing it a little bit earlier this year. It's our annual business meeting, because I'm going to be gone for the second half of June, as well as the first, let me think, first week in July, and then I'll be back. And so we'll be sending out some more information about things to be voting on. I'll be sending out the updated and proposed budget for all those things. If you have any questions about any of that, please feel free to reach out to me or Micah or any of the overseers. The other thing I would just ask is, please remember to pray for our church. I've just been thinking a lot recently about how Satan loves to divide, to bring discord, to bring hurt. And instead of dealing with them in a helpful way, we have a tendency to give in to the work of Satan. We need to fight to protect our church's unity. It's been standing out to me a ton recently, just that nowhere in the Bible does it say that we should create peace among ourselves. It says to keep peace among ourselves. We need to fight for that. And I think just some of this is, I've just been thinking about it more as we go through Revelation and reading various interpretations connotations or arguments that people make in relation to how do we interpret Revelation, and let's not divide over some of the things that Satan would love us to divide over. Like, let's continue working to preserve unity, to keep the bond of spirit and in the bond of peace that only comes and happens because of the work of the Holy Spirit in us. So again, if you have any questions about what we're studying together, please feel free to reach out to me. We're going to be doing Revelation for a couple more weeks, and then we'll be breaking for Psalms in the summer, and then pick up Revelation again in the fall. So again, hope this study has been helpful. Hope it's been encouraging. Hope it's been edifying to us as God's people, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday.